What is going on, ORGCOM 225? It's Brendan Gillis. I'm here to talk about work. Now I want to start out not by talking about my own personal experience, but rather talking about the things from the chapter that were kind of the most interesting and the most salient to me personally. And for me that was two things. They tie into my experience actually, and that's going to be the acclimatization to a new workplace as a new hire, and as well as kind of figuring out the in-groups and the out-groups and how who you align with very early on at your new place of work can have a serious impact on how your job ends up playing out in the long run. And so as far as those things go, it is really interesting that the acclimatization process begins before you even start interviewing, because you already have a very rudimentary knowledge of the place that you're applying at before you even step foot into the place, just by knowledge of other people talking about it. In my case, my friend had told me to apply to this place that I had worked at. It was called Waterway. It was a car wash about 10 minutes down the street from where I live. And so I had already kind of an idea of what to expect as far as my job, what to expect as far as am I working inside or outside, as well as kind of who the type of people are that I'll be working with. And let me tell you, it was very interesting. This job was full of high school boys. That was pretty much the only demographic that they hired here. And I kind of knew that going in because that's what my friend had told me. So like I said, that was part of my anticipated acclimatization process. But it was also a very big part of the culture. And it was honestly kind of one of the negatives to working this job. I had applied here about 2 years ago, so I was about a junior in high school or so about the time that I had taken this job up. And the problem with this, one of the biggest negatives was the fact that with so many high school kids working in one place, there was a lot of high school dynamics in place. That meant, you know, people clumped up by which high school they were going to. If you were going to a Chaparral or a Legend or Pondo, those are kind of the big schools that people would separate themselves by, and you would almost see kind of a bullying dynamic work as far as getting cars to clean, because after a car runs through the wash, two people are supposed to go take a car, clean it, and that's where they get their tip money from after the car is finished. And if you have a lot of friends here, then you get a lot of money because you have a lot of people who you can dibs a car with, and so that means you get to that place, but you get to that car to make that money before anyone else gets the opportunity to. And if you're not part of any sort of grouping here, then you are effectively like outcasts, and you have to kind of work a little harder than most other people would to get the cars and subsequently the money that you rely on so heavily as a tipped worker, you know, to make your job fulfilling to you personally. And another very, I guess another negative aspect is the fact that, again, with the high school mentality largely encompassed by these people, if you're a girl working down on the line with a place full of men, you're automatically part of this in-group, and a huge part of becoming in the in-group is pretty much just simply trying to socialize and become friends with this one girl, and it's almost objectifying in a way. It was very peculiar for me. I remember I got a friend of mine who was a girl to come work at this place, and she had a very interesting experience with that. I think besides those things, one positive to this workplace though was definitely the fact that God, how do I even say it? You get quickly acclimatized. You quickly kind of learn the dynamics, and it's almost like you're forced to adapt, and that builds a lot of resiliency. It did for me, at least. Even though I was part of one of the more, I guess, popular groups of people at this workplace, I quickly learned and adapted, and those were skills that I was kind of able to transfer fluidly to my next job after I'd left this place, and I thought that was very interesting. Knowing what I know now, I definitely would try to devolve those groupings, those cliques that had formed there, but it was also a very rigid sort of culture there, because that's going to be very hard to break with a large number of stubborn teenage boys in high school. So, you know, I think that's about all I got for you. So if you have any questions, like, write them in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time. All right, I'm out.